Now, I remember when they first showed us Steam, so the original iteration of Steam was basically this idea where, are you going to start playing the game and it's going to download it as you play it? And so, you could start Half-Life, the original Half-Life, immediately, and as you're playing it, it's downloading everything, and it sounded really great on paper. But most of us looked at it and were like, this is kind of dumb. We don't get it. We're going to go back to working on HL2. And luckily, Gabe was in charge of that, not us. We just focused on the games. But yeah, it was an interesting time, I think, for the company because we had worked on Half-Life, and it had done super well. And the business guys are kind of like, it did really well, but if we want to grow and get bigger and hit all these aspirations, like the gaming industry at that time was really difficult. There wasn't a lot of money in it, even though it seemed like it. Like you could have a big mega hit, but you weren't like swimming in cash, especially if you're like, well, we got to bankroll this next big hit, and especially on Valve time, like you're not talking a couple years, right? It takes a long time. So I think Steam was really Gabe was really thinking about that, and the biz guys were really thinking about that. Like, how do we take these things that we're laboring over and are being really successful and turn that into something that's more profitable for us in this industry that wasn't really necessarily always the best for that. So I think Steam and microtransactions and a lot of those things were kind of coming from that world. Plus just having that store and having that ability for us to do cool things with.
Do you remember the turning point where you're like, oh, okay, I am so on board with this?
I think there were two things internally at the company. One was, so usually when we'd release a game, you would kind of put it out there, and back in the day it was all physical, so you'd go print the discs, and then maybe 3 weeks later it would be on a store shelf and you'd come across it. So there wasn't this awesome like, yay, we shipped it. But Steam was really cool because you could actually literally have the whole team there pushing the button that released it to everyone, and then we'd go run back and check, whatever I guess it was Reddit was the biggest at the time. And so that was really cool. We would build like these crazy things. Like one of the engineers had built this huge like launch pad, and there's like a key and all these things that we do. So we made this big to do of it. And that was really cool as a team because we worked so hard on these things, and just having that camaraderie and that focal point to like push that button was really cool. But then one of the things I also enjoyed about Steam, because I mean the business parts of Steam are obvious, but it was really fun in Portal too because when we were working on it, we had kind of been given Portal, and Portal tried to tie a bow on it and say, like, Gladys blew up, that's the end. And we were like, how are we going to move from this? And we had some ideas, and a bunch of us sat down and we're like, we happen to have this platform where we can kind of go back and retroactively do things, and we can mess with the community, and we can kind of change what history was in a fun way that's us with our audience, not just us coming in and do what we want. So when the original Portal 2 announcement was coming out, we went back and did the ARG, and a big part of that was us being able to go back and ship things into Portal that didn't originally exist. And without Steam, there would have been no easy way to do that, right? We would have shipped those disks, and that would have been the end. So I think for me, that ability to continue to have that dialogue with our audience in like a fun and subversive way almost, things that they don't expect and they don't see coming, was really fun. Because when those things showed up in Portal, people were like, what is this? We had never done anything like that before, and then that kind of led to this whole ARG and this whole huge thing, and that was just tons of fun.